Good, y'all. Hey, look, I wanted to get on this Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford real quick. Um, so look, in my opinion, as far as this fight goes, I feel that both fighters are great fighters. At 147, I feel that Errol Spence has made his mark, and since Terrence Crawford has been at 147, I feel that he's made his mark as well. He has beat like two or three of the same opponents that Errol Spence has beat, and he has beat them in quicker and more devastating fashion than Errol Spence, being a smaller fighter. I think these are things that people have to take into consideration. A couple of other things that people need to take into consideration. One being that this man, Errol Spence, was in a horrific car accident a few years ago, which we're not sure how much damage it may have left him with that maybe the doctors couldn't see, or that may affect him down the line. Hopefully it wouldn't, but you just never know when you're dealing with something like that. I mean, the man was thrown from a vehicle going like, what, 80 some miles an hour. You know what I mean? He was lucky enough to not have no broken bones or sustain any serious head injuries or injuries that would prevent him from boxing. So you have this significant injury. Yes, he came back and he beat Danny Garcia. He put on a dominating performance. He was he dominated Danny Garcia. But I saw some things that I didn't really like, as far as Errol is concerned. It seemed to me, even though Danny is a hard puncher, he's still not a natural welterweight, just like Mikey Garcia was a natural welterweight. But it seemed like it was more dominating, I guess I could say, with Mikey Garcia than it was with Danny Garcia, in my opinion. But speaking on the accident, we also have to take into consideration the eye injury. Now, Errol Spence reportedly or allegedly, he got an eye injury. What is it called? A torn retina? Is it a torn retina? Or detached retina? My apologies. A detached retina in sparring. This is sparring with headgear. His left eye, I think it was. You know what I'm saying? Being that he's left-handed, so what is he getting caught with? What if he's left-handed? He's standing with his right foot in front, and they said that it was his left eye. So what is he getting caught with? Is that a left hook that he's getting caught with? Whatever it is that he's getting caught with, he's not seeing that coming. How many of the top level fighters, top level, do you hear about getting an eye injury in sparring? Sparring, not fighting. Not in an actual match. We're talking about sparring. How many fighters have you heard that happen to? So it's something about him not keeping his guard up to block, whatever punch is coming either way. You know what I'm saying? Or he's not seeing it coming to even block it. We don't know that. But a fighter like Terrence Crawford would expose that in the ring if that was an issue. Now, you have a guy named Errol Spence, which I like both fighters. Errol Spence is a Pisces like me. His birthday a day after mine, March 3rd. So I like Errol Spence, but you got to think rationally and reasonably. Does Errol Spence having injuries mean that he can't beat Terrence Crawford? Absolutely not. It does not mean that. But if you were a betting man, would you bet on the man who's had two significant injuries, a car accident, going over 80 some miles an hour that just tosses him from the vehicle? You know what I'm saying? to where he's got to be out of boxing for around or about a year. Then the detached retina in sparring, which we haven't seen how he's going to perform after this recent injury. So we don't know how he's going to perform yet. So if you were a betting man, would you bet on the man that had 2 significant injuries or the man that hasn't had any that we know of? Me personally, I would think that before the injuries, I would have went with Errol Spence. But since the injuries, as a betting man, if I were to bet on the fight, I would have to go with Crawford. Just because of the injuries. I feel that because you know it's sketchy. You know what I'm saying? It's sketchy, so you got to be a thinking man. I'm going to go with the guy that ain't been broke up, that ain't been damaged. You see what I'm saying? It don't mean that that's how it's going to go, but it makes more sense if you know, get where I'm coming from. This fight has a lot of emotions behind it. You know, it's a lot of people, a lot of Crawford fans, a lot of Spence fans. I'm a fan of both, all right? Errol Spence has dominated in one weight class only. It's not taking nothing away from him. And I'm not saying that he can't dominate in others, but let's keep it real. Terrence Crawford has dominated at 135, 140, and he is dominating at 147. And like I said once before, he is knocking out and stopping the same people that 2 of the last fighters, or 2 of some of the fighters that Errol Spence has fought, and he has knocked them out in quicker and more devastating fashion. This is something that no one who's watching boxing can dispute. It is what it is. Whoever your fighter is whoever your fighter is. But if I were a betting man and I were to bet on this fight, excuse me, I am a betting man, but if I were to bet on this fight realistically and using my logic and common sense, I would have to lean towards Crawford simply because of the injuries, simply because I don't know exactly what to expect from Errol Spence when he comes back. I wish both fighters the best. Whoever wins, wins, and you know, that's just what it is. But if I was a betting man, I would have to go with Crawford. If Errol Spence won, I wouldn't be surprised, but it would say so much more about his spirit and his drive, you know what I'm saying, as a fighter, you know. So if he won, that's cool too. But if I was a betting man, I'm have to go with Crawford. I would want it to go with Errol, but you know, like, come on, man, like, but you know, to each his own. Both great fighters, and I wish them both the best. And when that fight comes, it's gonna be a moment in history. You know, it's gonna be definitely one that we won't forget. So I just hope that when that fight does happen, that, you know, congrats to whoever wins, and that I hope that both fighters come out safe, and you know, they can go home to their families and enjoy the rest of their life. And yeah, that's about it. So with that being said, I got to get on up out of here. Black Dr. Phil, and I'm out.